Good evening, everyone. I hope that your week so far has been great. Yes, it is World AIDS Day, and it is a Thursday, and as per custom, we bring you topics, that have to do with our mental health and everything on Thursdays. And today, being World AIDS Day, we are bringing you a topic that links HIV/AIDS and mental health. I have Chilala in the studio today, joining us as an expert in the psychology space. And later on, Darius will join us as usual. I'll hand over to you, Chilala. You can greet the viewers and introduce the topic that we are about today.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, viewers from wherever you are joining us on the various platforms. We welcome you to our discussion for today. We are looking at a discussion that is titled Non-Clinical Methods in the Fight Against HIV/AIDS. Non-clinical methods in the fight against HIV/AIDS. That's a subject of discussion for this evening.
Thank you, Chilala. Thank you so much. All right. As I have said, we are linking HIV/AIDS this evening with mental health. So maybe the first question in this conversation then would be, where do these meet? Where does HIV/AIDS meet mental health?
Okay, thank you so much. As I begin to address that question, allow me to first of all mention that when we talk of the clinical approaches in the fight against HIV/AIDS, we are actually talking about interventions that relate to the treatment of patients in a clinical setup, okay, rather
Mm-hmm.
than in a theoretical way, okay, rather than a theoretical way. The other terminology is pharmacological, okay, pharmacological. It has to do with drugs, and so it is the treatment using drugs. Now we are focusing on fighting HIV/AIDS using non-clinical, non-pharmacological, okay. So we are removing the approaches that take place in a clinical setup using clinical approaches. Okay, we are removing approaches that have to do with drugs, that are drug based. Okay, that's what we are looking at. So
Mm-hmm.
that is where the link now comes in. That's where the link comes out in now between mental health and the fight against HIV/AIDS. So when we talk of mental health, okay, it's something that is broad. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
we can talk of counseling. All right,
Yes.
we can talk of psychotherapy. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
we can talk of psychoeducation. We can talk of self-help and support groups. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
these approaches can help us in fighting HIV/AIDS, and these are one of the non-clinical, non-pharmacological approaches in the fight against HIV/AIDS. So that is where the link is. Okay, you are using psychotherapy, you're using counseling, you're using psychoeducation in order to do what? To help people that are affected, as well as those that are living with HIV, to cope with their condition. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So looking at these ways of the non-pharmaceutical or the drug ways of combating HIV, are we then saying that there is no space for
Yeah.
the pharma, for the way that we've been doing things? Or are we saying that there's a way of making these things work together?
We are simply not saying that the way things have been done using pharmacological approaches is not effective, or it has not been good. That's not what we are saying. But what we are saying
Okay.
is, when we incorporate the two, the pharmacological and the non-pharmacological, then we are using a very comprehensive approach, which ensures that no area is left in the fight or combating HIV. Yes, that's what
I
I
hear
can say
you.
on that.
All right. Awesome. So we are not saying that people should now stop taking their medication or stuff like that. We are saying that on top of that, there is a fight that we can engage in, which is more psychological than physical. I hear you. All right. Then what then would be the role of mental health services in prevention of HIV/AIDS? Like, is there anything that this non-pharmacological space can exist and work even before we say the person is living with HIV, in preventing it, from preventing the person from catching HIV or being infected? What would be the role then?
Okay, yeah. There is ways through which these interventions can work. One of them is through psychoeducation. Okay, I believe psychoeducation uh, can apply in ensuring that there is prevention of HIV/AIDS. Okay. Now, as the term suggests, psychoeducation. Okay, it is coming from the psychology discipline. Okay, the discipline of psychology. So you are educating people from a psychological uh, perspective. So you are going to meet people that could be at risk. Okay, you're going to meet people that could be at risk, and you're going to give them psychological education about HIV AIDS. You're going to tell them about everything that they will need to know about HIV AIDS, how they can prevent themselves, how someone uh, can be at risk, how someone can be infected. You know, you explain in details everything, and then you also explain the issues of counseling, okay, or therapy for those that are not yet infected with HIV. You also explain the issues of how somebody could be able to make themselves ready to know their status. Okay, if they decide to get tested. Okay, because you know we are talking of people that get nervous. Okay, people that get anxious whenever they are going to get tested.
Okay, seems like Chilala's network is acting up a bit there. Hopefully he can rejoin soon. Okay, let's try to add him once again.
Sorry,
Sorry,
I
we
was
lost.
rejected. I don't know why.
Yeah, we lost you there for a little bit.
Yeah. Yes, so we are also talking about issues of counseling, you know, whereby you need to prepare somebody's mind. Okay, we prepare somebody psychologically as they make a decision to get tested, and then uh, also how they are going to handle their results. Okay, if they are going to be found negative, how are they going to do it to ensure that they prevent themselves, and also in the course of preventing themselves, they are also preventing others from contracting HIV. So that is how um, non-pharmacological approaches can help in ensuring that there is prevention even before somebody contracts HIV.
Okay, I want to extend this question a little bit, Chilala, by asking, according to your knowledge, are there any mental health issues that may be found? I don't know how to put this, but are there people that suffer from certain mental health issues that may be, of a higher risk to be infected by diseases like HIV/AIDS? I don't know if you understand my question. So could there be a certain group of people, because of what you're struggling with, in terms of mental health, that would put them, more at risk than an average person of contracting HIV/AIDS?
Sure. Yeah, there are actually people that may be struggling with mental health issues that could be at high risk. When people have a challenge with their mental health, they are not operating at the optimum, as they are supposed to be operating, and so
Mm-hmm.
they could find themselves in different kind of activities, okay, in order for them to try and cope with their mental issues, okay. You can talk of somebody who is frustrated because their partner has left them, okay. Let me talk about relationships, okay. This is some of the common causes of mental breakdowns. Yes, somebody is
Mm-hmm.
having some issue, their partner, they have broke up with their partner and the likes, and so because of that, they battle with issues of depression, perhaps, okay. They battle with frustration. They are just not in their right mind, and so they at all cost want to do it. They want to cope with what they are feeling inside them. They are troubled. Their moods are suppressed.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps they think that one of the ways to cope is to sleep around, okay. Just
Yeah.
just sleep around with anybody they can access. Yes, without even being so much concerned or caring so much about what could be the outcome. People have said that one of the thing that people do when perhaps they're battling depression, they are frustrated as a result of they may resort to abuse of drugs and alcohol. They might resort to having
Ish, this network. All right, we will try and get Shilala back. But for those who are just joining us now, we are talking non-pharmacological intervention in fighting HIV/AIDS. We're talking ways that are not necessarily, your drug or your ART way to fight and combat HIV/AIDS. I am talking to Chilala Moya, who is our guest tonight, and he is now addressing the question of, are there any pre-existing um, pre-existing conditions that may make, or mental health conditions that may make people to have a higher risk of contracting HIV/AIDS. Welcome back, Chilala. I'm sorry about that. Your network seems to be struggling a bit, but we will be patient with it. You can continue with your answer. Chilala, Mr. Moya.
Okay, I don't know whether it's network which is causing this. I'm not very sure. If
Yes,
it's
it is
network,
network,
I'll need to
but
come up with a quick solution so that we avoid this.
okay. But yes, you can continue
Yes.
with answering the
Okay.
question you were answering.
Yes. So I was just explaining that issues that may have to do with depression, anxiety, stress, may lead people to. Are you getting me?
Yes, I am getting you. You can continue. We've lost him again. Okay. We are trying to get Chilala back onto the screen. I'll just recap on what he had shared so far. That okay, I think he's back now.
See,
Can
are
you
you
hear
able to
me
give
now?
me about 3 minutes? I try to change the network I'm using.
Okay, you can definitely do that. It's going to help us, throughout the evening.
I'm getting you, yes, but I wanted to make a request. Are you able to give me 3 minutes? I switch the networks I'm using. Perhaps I'll get proper internet.
Yes, definitely. You can go ahead and do that.
Okay, yeah, just give me about 3 minutes. I try to change the network I'm using. Perhaps I'll get good internet from the other network.
No problem.
Okay.
All right.
I'll be back.
As we give. Okay, I'll just
Okay, thank
continue.
you.
It's fine. You can join us when you're done. Yes. As we give Chilala a chance to change his network provider. So what we have covered so far, we have spoken about the link between
Sure.
mental health and HIV/AIDS, and our guest has explained to us where do these two meet. What is the role of mental health in terms of combating HIV/AIDS. We spoke of psychoeducation. We spoke of counseling. We spoke of, having a community that supports you, and stuff like that. And then the question that we're busy with now was the role of mental health in HIV/AIDS prevention. And he answered that, and gave us examples of what can be done. And then I extended the question and asked if there are any conditions that may predispose people, as high risk of contracting HIV/AIDS when they are when they suffer from those conditions. And he said definitely they are, because what tends to happen is that when people are going through certain mental distress, then they tend to go to numbing effects, maybe go to drugs, go to alcohol in order to numb their pain. And being intoxicated or high on drugs may lead some people to start having risky behavior of sleeping around with different partners, not protecting themselves. So this is where psychoeducation gets in, even before a person has been infected or affected by HIV/AIDS. I am going to welcome comments and any questions from you, if there are any, as we wait for Chilala to join us back in this conversation. It is World AIDS Day, and the theme for 2022 World AIDS Day has been equalize, which is a way for WHO or WHO to find a way to provide equal access to everyone infected, and equal access to treatment and counseling for everyone who is affected and infected by HIV/AIDS. I do not see any comments so far, or any. or any questions. So I'll just continue as we wait for our guests to rejoin us. I am part of a group that we were discussing today of how and now this is still on the prevention question that we're in, of how people, even those that know better, that is those that have already been infected, that are already living with HIV, how they still, some people still continue with risky behavior of continuing with sleeping with different partners without using protection, and they rely on the fact that they are taking their own medication, and their viral load is undetectable, meaning that they can't transmit the virus anymore. But then the risky behavior puts them at risk of contracting other diseases via their, risky sexual behavior. And how this pulls us back instead of moving us forward in fighting the epidemic of HIV/AIDS. And these conversations that we are having now are for that kind of education, to say to people, how do you prevent this from going on? How do you protect yourself? How do we use other methods? Like, for an example, the example that I'm making now, that there are people that already know they are living with HIV, and according to what they need to do pharmacologically, they are doing well. They are taking their treatment. Their viral load is undetectable. But because they lack certain type of education, they are not they are continuing with risky behavior, continuing to sleep around different partners and all that. So for me, that's where I would say the psychoeducation needs to come in, to say to this person, you cannot continue doing this. You cannot continue going around destroying yourself, in this manner and stuff like that. Okay, welcome back, Chilala. And you can, wrap up the question you were responding, and then we can continue with the conversation. Mr. Moya, you look frozen to me. This thing. There's some spirit here today that's preventing us from having this conversation. I don't know what happened to Chilana. Chilana, if you can hear me, maybe it will be okay for you to join us from Zoom. Seems like StreamYard is failing us in the network part. I don't know if you can hear me. Anyway, so I was saying that the education needs to happen, because part of psycho education is to teach a person how to value themselves. I don't think that a person that values themselves and values the lives of others would continue engaging in risky behavior when they know better. Because when you know better, we think that you should do better. So if you already have been educated in terms of, this is the state that you are in now, this is what you can do to protect yourself and protect others, and then you go ahead and live a life that is directly against that, to me, that seems to suggest that the person either has no idea what they are doing, or they are deliberately hurting themselves, which is a symptom of not being of not taking care of your mental health. It's a symptom that you do not value life, and that's something that needs to be fixed. Tawanga, if you can you please reach out to Chilala for me and tell him to join on Zoom? I cannot I cannot text him at this particular moment. Tawanga, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Please reach out to Chilala and just drop him a text and tell him he can just join us using Zoom.
All right.
Thank you. All right. The next part of this conversation, since we have spoken about prevention, will be the role of mental health in testing and treatment, or in taking treatment. I grew up in a place where people would hide their HIV status because of stigma around it. I think it still happens even today. But at the time when I was growing up, a whole lot of people that were diagnosed with HIV would then start having some hallucinations, suffering from psychosis, and it would lead people to think that they are either demon possessed or they had some spiritual calling. And then for me, this question of the role of the non-pharmacological treatment or strategies in combating HIV/AIDS becomes very important, because it would combat that theory or myth that a person is having demons, or have some spiritual calling or something. Because if the person is empowered and educated on how the treatment is going to affect them, then we won't have to get there. Tawanga, are you winning?
I've talked to him.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thanks. All right, I am hoping that he is going to join us soon. But yes, that then would be my next question to the mental health experts on what can be done in terms of combating these myths around this. We do welcome questions and comments. Yes, Chilala is here. Great stuff. Chilala, can you hear me? Chilala, can you unmute yourself? Please unmute yourself, Chilala. Tawanga, if you are the admin, can you please unmute Chilala? Am I still audible? Okay, he's disappeared again. All right. All right, we'll wait for him to come back. Whilst
I think he's having problems with his network.
I see that.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah,
My pastor, how are you?
so how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I'm enjoying. Look, part of what I think may need to happen is to be aware that things like self-awareness, self-view, self-esteem, etc. In other words, those things that quite often make a difference when it comes to our mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Even before it makes us use ineffective ways of dealing with the challenges that we have, that in itself makes us vulnerable. Let's say somebody who's not self-confident and they need to prove a point that they're doing fine, that they are hot, that they have what all other people have and stuff like that. That by itself makes people engage in behavior that's high risk and which even tends to amount to self-harm sometimes, just to make a point, just to be known to be in a relationship. Sometimes people think the more the better. For men, it might prove that they really have the charm. And it was a sacrifice their own health and security, basically, the health and safety rather. So we may need to start educating our children, training them up, strengthening their own resilience to the burdens of life, and also work on their psyche to strengthen them in that space.
Yes.
So that they don't have to need to prove nothing to nobody. They are good by themselves.
True.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Pastor Mwangwe, for that contribution. I do believe 100% that what you've just said is very true. People that lack self-esteem and self-awareness tend to put themselves in risk because of trying to prove a point, as you've said. For women, this risk may be that of staying in relationships that are bad for them, because they want that sense of belonging, that sense of I'm worthy and I'm loved. For men, it may mean having multiple sexual partners just to prove that I've got it. I am worthy. I am loved. I'm hot. I'm happening. I'm desirable. And it actually, with both genders, it can go either way. You may find women that engage in that have multiple sexual partners because they feel they are hot, they've got it, they're proving it to everyone that they are noticeable and admirable. So the role of these mental health then would be to talk even to young girls, it's said that the stats that were released now for World AIDS Day, it shows teenagers having a high number, of infections, teenagers and women. I'm going to make a point about the fact that it's just women and not men a bit later on. But a lot of teenagers have a high number of infections, and that is because the pressure of belonging, the pressure of I've got this, I can prove it to you, I can prove to everyone that I'm liked. And I'm also talking from a point of experience as well. I grew up with a whole lot of self-esteem issues. My self-esteem issues might not have led me to having multiple partners because one, I believed I was ugly because I was told I was ugly. But for someone else, it may be a different case of I'm going to prove it to them, even though I may not appear as desirable as people think I should. Then I am going to prove it by doing these things that attract attention to me, that shows that people like me and all that. So it's the role of mental health is very serious in that girls as young as teenage stage should be taught how to value themselves, how to take care of themselves. And if we teach them self-love and self-respect, and then all the other areas of their lives are covered. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yes, if I may, Sia, I think the part, I don't know if this is happening in other countries. I know down here in our schools, we have a sexuality education or sex education, or those things that our kids are being taught at school in the curriculum of life orientation.
Mm-hmm.
My observation is that when they discuss with the children and talk about human sexuality, they talk of it as science, as biology, as physiology,
Mm-hmm.
and as sexuality, devoid of adding values to the behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So if that education was to happen in the context of also empowering them, telling them how powerful sexuality is in
Yes.
and of itself,
Yeah.
and how it impacts our lives in both physical ways, but also in emotional, mental ways.
Yes. Yes.
Let's think, for instance, if somebody's mental health is not too good, like you indicated, they are not likely to walk away from an abusive relationship.
Yes.
And we know that some of this abuse is not very overt.
Mm-hmm.
One may be married to a narcissist who is a control freak and so on, and keeps gaslighting this other individual into submission and seeing themselves through the eyes of the narcissist sexual partner. And if we have not empowered our younger people especially to know how one day when this relationship break up, they might have a feeling that the other person has moved away with part of themselves.
Yeah.
And they feel less complete without the other person because of how they handled the questions of intimacy and sex and sexuality without the values that goes beyond the biology and the physiology.
Thank you so much for that contribution. I always say to the young people whenever they ask, the question of when is the right time to have sex, and I always tell them, your body will tell you that this is the right time, and you will feel like doing it because your hormones are raging. But the reality of it is that it is more than just the biology. It is more than just your body feeling like doing this thing. There's a whole lot of other things that are involved in you engaging in sex. And until you are at a certain stage of your life, you are not ready to deal with those things. You're not ready to deal with the emotional and the psychological impact of what you want to engage in. So until you get there, stay away from having, from doing these things. Stay away from exploring. There's nothing wrong with your body, with your hormones. There's nothing wrong with your body telling you that this is what I want. But there is everything wrong with you doing it just for the sake that my body wanted it to do it. Otherwise you would be just animals. So there's a whole lot of psychological and emotional impact that you are not ready to deal with until you reach a certain stage of life. Thank you for your contribution, Fundis. I see Chilala is back. I hope we can hear each other now.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, thank you. All right, I am going to ask the question that I was asking when you were leaving, before we lost you. The role of mental health. Okay, we spoke about the role of mental health in prevention, right? Preventing HIV/AIDS, and then we were moving to the role of HIV/AIDS in testing and treatment. Particularly in treatment, I am interested in how we can help people that have just started taking treatment, how the psychoeducation can help them to deal with the effects of treatment. And I made an example that a whole lot of people would get to a point where they hallucinate, they suffer from psychosis to a point where they would think that they are having a spiritual attack, they're having demons, or they have a spiritual calling, and therefore people will start being sangomas and all that. Whereas it was just them reacting to medication. So can you help us to bridge the gap between using the treatment, which is the drugs that are prescribed, and using mental health services in order to support people that have just taking treatment? Obviously, this also applies in terms of testing. Where how does the role of mental health services come in terms of testing for HIV/AIDS?
Okay, thank you so much. Apologies for that challenge. I had to switch to the third internet provider. Yeah. Okay, we continue. So from that perspective that you have just brought in, the way people will react to the fact that they are HIV positive would differ. Okay. Yes, others will react positively, others will react negatively. And so based on how somebody reacts to the status, okay, the positive status especially, will also influence the way they are going to react to the issue of treatment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, the reason behind their reaction also could be how somebody has contracted HIV. Sometimes when people did not expect themselves to contract HIV, especially that, for example, it's their partner who has contracted them, somebody whom they did not expect, it could be very shocking and something that is very difficult to accept. And so where does psychotherapy, okay, psychoeducation come in this situation? Okay, somebody has to be convinced that they are HIV positive and there's nothing that they can do about it. Okay, they need to be talked to. Okay, their family need also to sit down and talk to a psychotherapist. Their couple need to sit and talk to a psychotherapist, and other people that could be around them who could be affected by the same challenge need also to be talked to through a psychotherapist. Okay, and so a psychotherapist is going to help somebody who is HIV positive to be able to balance their thoughts, to be able to balance their emotions, to be able to balance also their behavior. Because when somebody has just tested positive, they may not be able to carry that in a normal or proper manner. Their their thoughts could be distorted. And so when thoughts are distorted, it affects the emotions. And when emotions are distorted, even the behavior is going to be distorted. And so a psychotherapist come in order to ensure that all these aspects of a person are well balanced. And then they are going to talk about the issue of treatment. Okay, what's the role of treatment? Okay, how should someone take the issue of treatment? You must be aware here that there are people that have taken treatment, months, even years, and at some point they just got tired. Like, well, I can't continue living like this. They feel like it's something that is too strenuous for them to continue. And we have actually cases of people that have completely refused to do it, to continue being on treatment. Others have ended up now having all these opportunistic infections, and they even lost their lives, some of them, because of that.
Yeah.
So psychotherapy comes in there. Okay, somebody needs to be helped, so that they can they can manage their thoughts, they can manage their emotions, they can manage their behavior, so that they could continue to do it, to take the medication. They need also support from their family members, from their spouses, because it is these people that they live with, and when they are able to receive all the support from these people who are also part of the therapy, then it becomes a little bit of a lighter thing for them to take the medication. So apart from that, when people are receiving psychotherapy, they are also able to air their views. They're able to talk about how they are feeling. They feel sad, they feel bad, they feel frustrated. They're able to talk about it. And when all those things are expressed to a therapist will know that, well, this is where the problem lies. And so a therapist will help those people to deal all those negative thoughts and emotions that are inherent in those people. So those are some of the ways through which mental health can help in ensuring that people that are HIV, they are able to live like that in a healthy way.
That's true. That's true. I like what you said. When it comes to support, I do talk to a lot of people that have just been diagnosed with HIV, and when they're still in the state of, I haven't told anyone, I don't want to tell anyone, and my advice always is, you need at least one person who is going to help you, to support you, who's going to hear you out when when you are frustrated. When it comes to treatment, for an example, pill fatigue is real. It's a thing. You get to a point where you are tired of taking pills and you're like, no, I don't want to do this thing anymore. I'm tired. I don't want to. So if you do not have any support, you can easily slip into not taking your medication, which may put your life at risk. So, but if you have a strong support base and people that you can listen to, even if it's a therapist, it's not a family member or anything, or just a friend that you can offload to, that person may encourage you. I'm going to make an example. When I was diagnosed with HIV, at first I didn't want to tell people. Okay, the only person for a while, the only person that knew was the person who infected me, who was in a way using this to keep me in the very toxic relationship we're in. So, and then I told a friend of mine, and back then when I was diagnosed, it was before the enforcement that everyone that has been diagnosed must start taking ART. So I was not, when I was diagnosed, my CD4 count was high. I didn't need treatment immediately. So I had few months before starting taking treatment. So in that few months before starting taking treatment, I told only one person, which is a friend of mine, because I needed to fill in their name in the clinic form as an accountability something, where the day I start treatment, if I don't come up and get treatment, then that person must be called. So I told that person just, for me to get rid of that admit. And the other person was my the person who infected me. And and I struggled to accept because for me, I think part of me, I was angry more than anything. I was angry at the fact that
Okay.
I did not get this thing from the street. I did not go around, I did not go sleeping around and then I got HIV. I got it at home, you know. And that for me made me very angry on, hey Bo, is this, you know, some sick joke or what? How did we get here? You know? And then I had to process my anger. And as much as the friend that I told said to me, in a few years' time, you're going to look back at this and it would have passed. I did not get it. I was like, there's no way that this passes, you know, there's no way that this bitterness that I'm feeling would pass. And then, okay, eventually I had to tell my mother, and eventually I had to start treatment. And when I started treatment now, I realized that everybody that knew about my condition and me starting treatment were very far away from me in physical distance. So when I started taking treatment and started falling sick, reacting to the treatment, I needed to tell people that were closer in terms of location. That's when my other two friends got to know. And my approach was very rough. It was a drop of a WhatsApp text. Girls, I tested for HIV as 9 months ago. Today I started treatment. I'm feeling sick. And that was it. I didn't care what they were going to think, how they were going to receive it, how much shocking this was to them or whatever. It was me just being me, relieving myself of the burden I was feeling. And in case I died and I was living with my kids only, in case something happened to me, at least somebody must know, you know. And amazingly, I received so much support, you know. And as much as, yes, it took me a while to process my emotions and get to a point of acceptance and get to a point where I involved my kids in terms of, you know, this is what's happening in my life. I am taking treatment and whatnot. It took me a while, but when I eventually did, my children became more of accountability partners than anyone else, because they would remind me, Mama, it's 9 o'clock, take your medication. Mama, if you don't take your medication, you're gonna get sick, you know, and stuff like that. And they did that faithfully for for a while. And whenever pill fatigue kicked in for me, I knew I had support, you know. Even when I started, go for counseling and whatnot, it's one of the first things that I spoke about. This is what's happening in my life. And I received enormous support. So this is why I always say to people that mental support, psychological support is worth, I don't know, it's worth a lot of things, because you get to a point where your own resolve, where your own resilience is failing you, where your own strength is like, you know what, I'm done, I'm tired, But if you have people in your life that care about you and want to see you living, then they are going to support you. So we cannot overemphasize emphasize that just taking treatment is not enough. Just relying on the pharmacological assistance is not enough. You need something more than that in order for you to live a full and beautiful life. Here I am 6 years later, healthy, bubbling, living my best life, and with no, psycho issues around HIV. And it's 8 o'clock. I am going to give you a chance to give you your parting remarks, and I am going to accept any comments and questions that may be there from the audience.
Okay, thank you, Sia. On a lighter, true note, somebody just commented on the advert, on the poster, said, wow, she's beautiful. Talking about you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, because you are taking good care of yourself. So you are a health mind, you have a health body. Great. Yeah. So you talked about you having a lot of anger, when you were diagnosed with HIV. So just that anger itself, that's a case for counseling. So already mental health comes in just there, you know.
Yes. Yes.
Exactly. There was need to help you with counseling so that you could be able to cope up with that anger. It's something that is very difficult, you know. When you
Mm.
when you contract HIV, okay, like you said that you are not out there in the street, you know, you contracted it in your home. You know, that was something that was very, very difficult to accept, and you know, it makes you very bitter. You know, you get so angry about everything because as far as you're concerned, you did not do anything to deserve that. You know, so in order for
Yeah.
you to come to terms with that, surely you need psychological support. Then you talked about the issue of somebody receiving treatment, and as you have said that there just comes a time when you're just tired, you feel like you cannot just continue this treatment anymore. So you realize at that point that pharmacological treatment alone is not enough, because even when
Yeah.
there is pharmacological treatment, you know, somebody still gets tired, okay, and they need what they need, some energy, some positive energy. And so that positive energy, where are they going to get it? It is through mental health support. Okay, they
Yeah.
are going to get that energy through therapy, through counseling, through the support of the people around. Okay, that could be also involved in what, in this therapy that this person could be receiving. So that is how much this issue of non-pharmacological intervention in HIV combating is very important, and it cannot be under emphasized. So that is what I can say for now. I think you can go ahead and allow the people to bring some comments.
Thank you, Chilala. When we're still struggling to connect with you, Pastor Mongwe came in with very valid points on
Okay.
what we can do, especially for the younger people. That is in the mental health space, to build the self-confidence, and self-love and self-respect for younger people. Because when people lack self-confidence, they tend to abuse themselves or put themselves in situations where they are trying to prove their worth, which may lead, to more infections of HIV. Because when you're trying to prove that you are worthy and you are attractive, and all that, you may do that through sleeping with different people, not protecting yourself, and stuff like that. So he made very, very valid points, which I liked, in terms of what can we do in terms of preventing people from contracting HIV/AIDS, by empowering them, by reminding them of their worth, by making sure that their self-esteem is not lacking, and making sure that their self-love tank is full to the brim.
Yeah.
And to anyone who may be listening to us this evening and probably struggling, to accept that they've just been diagnosed, we are here, guys. I have a lot of therapists here on psych care. Chilala, Darius, and many other people that are there. They are here and they will help you to deal with this. I am not a trained counselor, but I am here and I can listen to you, you know. And if you need psycho therapy help, we have these guys that are helping us that can help you to deal with that. More than anything, my parting shot is, please love yourself and please be kind to yourself, wherever you may be in this spectrum of HIV, whether you are infected or affected, or someone who is, just be kind to yourself. And being kind to yourself obviously will translate being kind to others. If you know that you are living with HIV, you don't want to pass it on to other people. Trust me, you don't want to live with that. So get treatment, protect yourself, protect others, and live your beautiful best life. I mean, we here. I am almost at 7 years living with HIV. There's nothing wrong with me. You can also get here where you have fully accepted and you are fully embracing yourself with the status. It is more dangerous for you not to know your HIV status than for you to be HIV positive. It's okay. Like, honestly, living with HIV is really not scary. It's fine. It's okay. I'm here. But it's more dangerous for you to not know your status. So if you do not know your status, please go and get tested. And guys, I know I sometimes say this as a joke, but it's not a joke. Protect yourself, condomize. If you know you're sexually active, condomize, protect yourself, protect others. And please go get tested, know your HIV status, and do the right thing. That is all from me this World AIDS Day of 2022. Thank you so much for joining us from both, not both, from all the platforms, from Zoom, from YouTube, and from Facebook. We do apologize for the technical errors that we had. We appreciate your presence. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone. Good evening.